Professor Zexto's crystalline form shimmered with anticipation as he addressed his xenobiology class at the prestigious Galactic Military Academy. His four eyes swept across the diverse assembly of cadets towering Vorthic warriors with their armored carapaces, graceful ethereal scouts whose translucent bodies seemed to float, and hulking granite-born whose rocky hide could deflect plasma bolts. Today we study the most peculiar species to join our confederation, Professor Zexto announced, his voice resonating through the chamber's translation matrix. Humans of Earth, a species so physically inferior that their inclusion in our ranks defies all logic. The holographic display flickered to life, showing anatomical diagrams of a human male. Snickers rippled through the classroom as the professor's pointer traced the fragile-looking form. Observe their pathetic bone density, a mere fraction of a vortex exoskeleton strength. Their muscle fibers produce laughably low tensile force. Compared to granite-born physiology, they possess no natural armor, no venomous secretions, no electromagnetic manipulation abilities like the ethereals. Cadet Crix, a Vorthic whose mandibles clicked in amusement, raised a clawed appendage. Professor, how did such weaklings even survive their own homeworld? An excellent question, Zexto replied, pulling up images of Earth's predators. Their planet teems with creatures that should have eliminated them eons ago. Apex predators with superior speed, strength, and weaponry. Yet somehow, these soft-skinned mammals not only survived, but dominated their world. In the back corner of the classroom, largely ignored by his classmates, sat Marcus Chun's only human in a class of 37 cadets. He listened with quiet interest, occasionally taking notes on his datapad while his fellow students exchanged jokes about human frailty. Their reaction times are abysmal compared to ethereal reflexes, the professor continued. They're sensory. Organs are primitive, they can't even see in infrared or detect electromagnetic fields. Most amusing of all, they're so fragile that their own gravity can break their bones if they fall incorrectly. The laughter grew louder. Marcus simply smiled and continued his notes. But surely, interjected Cadet Yathar, an ethereal whose voice chimed like crystal bells, there must be some reason the High Command accepted them into the Confederation military? Professor Zexto's form dimmed slightly, the equivalent of a shrug. Political necessity, perhaps. Their homeworld possessed certain rare minerals. The military integration was likely part of the trade agreement. Can they even survive basic combat training? Asked granite-born Cadet Motar, his voice rumbling like an avalanche. That remains to be seen, Zexto replied. Which brings us to today's practical demonstration. We'll test human pain tolerance and physical limits using our standard military assessment protocols. All eyes turned to Marcus, who had been quietly observing the lesson. He stood slowly, his 5'10" frame dwarfed by most of his classmates, and walked to the front of the class with an easy stride. Cadet Chun, Professor Zexto announced, will demonstrate human physiological responses to combat level stress stimuli. The testing apparatus hummed to life, a sophisticated device designed to measure pain thresholds across different species. It started with pressure tests equivalent to what would cause discomfort in most Confederation races. Marcus placed his hand on the pressure plate and nodded. The machine began its sequence. The first level would cause most ethereals to withdraw immediately. Marcus didn't flinch. The second level typically made Vorthic cadets hesitate. Marcus raised an eyebrow and glanced at the readout. By the fifth level, which would send most granite-born into defensive postures, Marcus was still standing relaxed, occasionally checking his chronometer as if bored. Professor Zextor's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Perhaps there's a malfunction in the professor, Marcus interrupted politely. Is this thing actually turned on? I'm not feeling anything yet. The classroom fell silent. Even the perpetual hum of the station's life support seemed muted. The machine is functioning perfectly, Zexto stammered. These levels would incapacitate most species we've tested. Marcus shrugged. Okay, can we try something a bit stronger? This is about as intense as stubbing my toe on furniture. The professor's four eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of extreme confusion in his species. He increased the settings to emergency levels far beyond what any cadet had ever endured. Marcus yawned. That's impossible, whispered Cadet Crix. Those levels would crack my carapace. Interesting, Marcus mused, looking at his increasingly pale classmates. You know, back home, we have this thing called childbirth. Human females routinely endure pain levels that would literally kill most sentient species. And they often do it multiple times voluntarily. He gestured casually at the machine. We also have recreational activities we call extreme sports, deliberately subjecting ourselves to potentially lethal situations for entertainment. Some humans jump from aircraft with fabric wings, others dive into freezing water from great heights, and some even pay to be repeatedly punched in the face. The silence stretched longer. Oh, and there's this condition called adrenaline, Marcus continued conversationally. When we're in danger, our bodies dump chemicals that let us ignore pain entirely, increase our strength by several 100%, and accelerate our reaction times beyond what should be physiologically possible. Professor Zexto's form had dimmed to barely visible. But ... the data shows humans are fragile ... We are, Marcus agreed cheerfully. We break easily, we're slow, we're weak, and we die from all sorts of things that wouldn't bother other species. He paused, meeting the stares of each cadet in turn. But here's what your data doesn't show. We're also too stupid to know when to quit. He stepped away from the machine, which was now smoking slightly from the strain of its maximum output. Every human who ever lived grew up on a planet that was actively trying to kill them. We evolved alongside creatures that could tear us apart, in environments that could freeze or boil us, with diseases that could wipe us out, and natural disasters that could level our civilizations. And instead of developing armor or claws or energy manipulation, Marcus smiled, and something in that expression made the hardened military cadets take an unconscious step backward. We developed spite. The classroom remained frozen as Marcus collected his datapad and headed for the door. Just before leaving, he turned back to his stunned classmates. Same time next week, Professor? I'm curious to see what other weaknesses you'll be teaching them about. As the door slid shut behind the human, Professor Zexto made a note to contact the Academy's administration. Perhaps the human integration program needed some ... adjustments to their training protocols. After all, if this was what humanity considered weak, he wasn't sure the Confederation was prepared for what they considered strong.